Today we're going to be drawing an elderly person's face, and as you can see, I've already set up my template. I'm just erasing all the guidelines, and shortly I'll be just putting in all the facial features. But I wanted to mention that when I did the template, one of the things I did was for the eyes, instead of big football shapes, I made them much more narrow. And also, instead of making the nose the same width as one of the eyes, I made it maybe 90% smaller. So it's just a tiny bit smaller than the eye is. And because the nose is narrower, when I set up the triangles, you'll also notice that the lips were also a little bit narrower as well. I'll be starting with the eyes first. I normally avoid doing the eyes, but for the elderly person, I like starting with the eyes because they're very different. And you'll notice that I've made the eye shape a very narrow, flattened football shape. And I'll just darken it in. And that's because I find that a lot of elderly people, their eyes aren't as wide open as younger people are. So I'll just darken them in. I'm not going to reshape them like I normally do with the man and woman's face. I'll just keep them like this. Using a stencil, I will now draw in the iris. And because the eyes aren't as wide open, you'll notice in a moment that almost half of the iris is covered underneath the eyelids. Okay, and that's the way it should be. Draw in the pupils and center them. Make sure that you form a donut. Done one there, and another one here. And you can begin filling it in. With elderly people, I often don't make very large reflections. There's a reason for that. Older people often have drier eyes, and because their eyes are drier, they're less reflective. So I make tiny little reflections, or no reflections at all. After doing the pupil, you can add those lines that radiate out from the center, like the bicycle spokes, and I'm not going to bother with doing the ones up here because I'll be erasing them anyway. Erase anything above the eyelid because you won't be seeing those. Erase the inner parts of both eyes because we need to add some tear ducts. And the tear ducts can be small. And now we can add a large upper eyelid fold. And then I can add a lower eyelid fold as well. Now, not all people have the lower eyelid, but if you want to add it, feel free to do so. And so you can see that this person has a somewhat sleepy appearance because their eyelids are semi-closed. Next, we work on the nose, and again, using the 5U technique I taught you, I will draw 1U, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so the nose in this case is a bit narrower than the eye. And because people lose body mass as they get older, I'm going to draw the nose quite narrow and much narrower than the man and even narrower than the woman. I'll work on the cheekbone. Now, what you'll notice in elderly people is because they've lost a lot of body mass on their face, their cheekbones are often quite pronounced. You can actually see more of their cheekbone. So I'm using lines, but often I just shade it in to imply that there's quite a pronounced cheekbone. I won't work on the mouth yet. Instead, I'm going to work on the jawline. Now, because people age and their skin becomes more droopy because of gravity, what I'm going to draw down here are some loose skin. They actually have a name. They're called jowls. So there's one on this side, and there's another one on this side. I'll take an eraser and I'll clean up the jowl area, and I'll erase parts here as well. Because of gravity pulling down on a person's face, that's going to reshape the mouth. So I'm going to draw my mouth quite a bit different than I did for the other faces I've shown you. So I'll draw an M, and then I'll draw another M, and then I'll draw the W. Now, it looks like this person's unhappy, but that's not necessarily the case. It's simply a matter of the fact that because gravity's pulled down on the lower parts of the mouth and face, the mouth becomes a bit droopy and takes on the appearance of being sad or unhappy. I'm still working on the mouth area, and I'll add some additional lines here. Okay, and then I'll reshape the chin. Just finish it off a bit. I'll work on the ear. Remember, Valentine's Day, you can draw one heart, another half heart, and then the shape will be connected here like that. And then I'll just take an eraser and clean it up. And I'll fill in the details. The folds is one here, around, under, back out, and then another fold like that.